A very good evening to all my viewers who are watching me since afternoon celebrating International Women's Day on GETI Talk. My name is Shilpi. I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. Well, you see wonderful people around me. Yes, and they all have joined from the different parts of the world to celebrate the International Women's Day with me. I would like to be known as an intelligent woman, a courageous woman, a loving woman, a woman who teaches by being. So, yes, let me introduce my panel who all entail all these qualities that I have talked about. I begin with Miss Jacqueline Francis, who is from the United Kingdom, and she is the founder of She Empowers. She Empowers is something which is, an organization which is which is advocating domestic peace, and she is also the International Youth Advisor. She is an award winning author and a relationship educator. Then I have a very beautiful lady from Dubai, Miss Seetha Sagran. She's a lifestyle coach and she's a very soft spoken woman since the day one that I have been interacting with her. So, and she is also a keynote speaker and also a counselor. Then I have Dr. Mayana, who is a teacher educator from Mombasa. He has been working with Aga Khan Academy for a very long time. And Fatima from Afghanistan, Afghanistan, which is Herat. She is the youngest in our panel, and she is a journalist plus a social reformer working with the refugee women. And then our very own Dr. Shirin Abbas, who is from India. She's a journalist and also a trainer and a counselor. So I'm giving this opportunity to Miss Jacqueline Francis, who is the chairperson for this panel. And the theme of the panel is Choose to Change. Over to you, Doctor.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. And as you say, it's International Women's Day today, and we're here to celebrate women, but also to create awareness of women's issues that are going on in society today. So our first guest, I'm going to ask Fatima if she can speak first. Fatima is a journalist and social worker from Afghanistan, and the topic that she'll be discussing today is changes made by women in Afghanistan. So Fatima, can I hand over to you?
Hello everyone, and thank you. Just a warm regard for those who just are listening us from all around the world. Thank you for the nice panel, and I have to tell you, happy Women's Day, International Women's Day to all those women, all brave and those who just live their lives. Thank you so much. The title, as I consider it, is changes that are made in Afghanistan by women. To talk about this title, I just need to go back to many times ago when just the women were only as a housewife. It means they were known as a housewife sitting into their homes. Coming back to now or just going out to the future, I've seen many changes in Afghanistan, so that's why I just would like to talk about that. And it is a happy news for, I'm sure, for Afghan women, and they will be encouraged to follow their dreams, run after dreams, and change their dreams into realities. If First of all, I just would like to talk about the organizations that they had a part in bringing changes in just women movements. The first thing, we had just many organizations in Afghanistan who were just they were working and doing some social works for women in order to just empower them, build their capacities, and bring them into the society for just not only to be a housewife, but also they can be whatever they dream and whatever they love to do. Also, there were some institutions and many other just organs that they just truly and honestly worked for women in Afghanistan, and also the great change we see in government when we had the government of Taliban here in Afghanistan, they just thought that women are just to be a housewife, and they just thought they are not made to work in government issues and works. But if we just compare this government to the past, now we have many and couples of women who are working together and alongside with the government. They are the great change agents who are helping and doing things for the uh, improvement of Afghanistan, and other than that, for uh, just making a better place Afghanistan for living. The next thing, if you see just there are some, if you see just women's in, if we just participate their roles of women, they have their just personal life and they have their professional life. Right now, we have many women in Afghanistan who are just doing both their personal and professional life perfectly from their personal life. They are great mothers, grandmothers, sisters, brothers, and wives. From the professional side, they are great doctors, great teachers, social workers, and peacemakers. Uh, you know, all of them, just they are an example. They are an example. We have many of them. When just we talk about women in Afghanistan, the world just may imagine or just view a picture of war, view a picture of violence, and view a picture of mostly bad things about women in Afghanistan. But maybe that is true, but that is a part of Afghanistan, and we have many other positive sides that women are just doing perfectly. Just I just give I want to leave you with an example, which is it is about myself. When I just some days when I was just a small child, children just were forbidden to go to school. But as they fought, now we have many, mostly every family just let their children go schools, or even when just my family, they were just opposite, and they just didn't let me go school. I just convinced them to let me go and educate so I could go there. First I was just serving in an outlying area. It means Port province. We were living there. Then by the time we moved to Herat, here also we are just living in a village. So when I was there, just I was a child who just wasn't able to do anything, but I was dreaming, and I had the courage to dream even if there was no facilities there was no security there, or I just had to labor there. But beside all these things, I was just dreaming, and I had the courage to dream, and I followed my dreams too. So when just we immigrated to Herat here also, because due to many problems, economical problems, family problems, and cultural diversity or cultural shock, I just couldn't continue my education for 3 years. But I didn't give up, and I just fought, and I just followed my education at home by my own, and then I decided to work, carry my own expenses, and participate in school too. So that was how I worked, and I made some handicrafts, and I participated to just school and continued my education. And beside that, there was an organization who just offered us free EFL classes. I participated there. I tried hard, and I just learned English. After that, they were just working for refugees, and so I learned there to work with refugees too. Nowadays, beside being a student of journalism faculty in Herat University, I'm a social worker. I am also doing my diploma on social work in Regis University, but online. Then I just also I'm working and as a tour guide. It means for Untamed Borders adventure travel. And the good thing for me, and the good gift for me was the news that I'm known as the first and the only lady who is guiding tours in Afghanistan, especially or particularly in Herat province, which is many sites like CNN wrote an article about this. I just gave you this example because I wanted to just tell you that how I just brought changes in my life, in the life of many refugee children. I have, as I told you, I'm working. It means I'm a social worker. Also, I'm doing some social works. Beside that, I have a class of 40 just one students, and I'm teaching them English. Beside teaching English, I try to build their capacities, to empower them, to just motivate them to dream and to have the courage to dream and to follow and run after dream. So this is the third round that I'm teaching my students. It means I have graduated 2 rounds of my students. So all of them are just people who are doing different things now, who are just
I believe what we were actually fearing was an internet issue on Fatima's side. We can just wait for a minute, and then I would like Ms. Jacqueline to proceed further with the next speaker.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, she's there.
Okay.
She's there.
Okay. So as I told you, if if I could just did so many things for children, so many things for bringing change, if I could do so many things to be an agent of change, so each woman in Afghanistan are doing the same as me, but in different parts and in different ways. Those who are just doctors, they are doing their best to be the best doctors. Those who are just working as politicians are doing their best to just have a good role in government and in just building Afghanistan a better community. So if you just see today is the women who are in the community, they are just getting part in activities. They are just doing whatever they want. So these are all changes. But it doesn't mean I just ignore war in Afghanistan or discrimination against women. But I'm hopeful, and I'm sure if we just continue like this, we would be the best agents of change. And one day we will see Afghanistan, half men and half women are working together, no discrimination, no violence, and nothing negative about women here in Afghanistan. So thank you. That was all I have just shared about changes that women have made in Afghanistan. I said there are many changes, but so I just could just gave some examples, and also a sample that how they just changed, and they are agents of change or social change. Yeah, that was all. So okay. If any question, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Fatima. That was very
you're welcome.
There was a lot going on there. I like the idea that that women are not just housewives in the home, and that they are great mothers and sisters and wives, and the fact that they are also doctors and social workers and peacemakers, and that they should be part of the policy making as well. And I like when you talked about issues regarding how others perceive Afghanistan, but it's and the fact that how you educated yourself, how you made handicrafts and things like that for yourselves, and that's a great to empower other women because you have to start from somewhere, isn't it? Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Okay, so if we can get on to our next speaker, which is Dr. Shirin Abbas. So if Dr. Shirin Abbas, hi there.
Hello.
Hi. So let me just quickly introduce you to Dr. Shirin Abbas. So the subject matter that she'll be talking about today is Empower Through Mobiles for Indian Women. And if I can just quickly introduce her to you, she's the first British Chevening Scholar in journalism from UP, studied journalism at the University of Westminster, London, which I went to as well. Great university.
Right.
Yeah, she has a triple MA in economics, women's gender studies, environment and ecology, and a PhD in mass communication. She's worked for over 25 years as a journalist with the leading national English dailies, worked in the bureau chief of American news portal, the Indian Observer, hailed as an expert in women and gender studies, and has attended and presented papers in over 40 national and international conferences, and has been a multiple award winner, contributing to education, journalism, and the field of women and gender studies. That's awesome. So if I can leave it to you, we have 10 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Shilpi, can we have the presentation, please? There is a presentation that I wanted Shilpi to run. So basically, these are case studies from my, so these are stories of social change for women through using mobiles. A lot negative has been said about India and its, statistics regarding women. Here are some positive stories and things that have been done. Shilpi, can we go on to the, So these are the presentation overviews. And can we go on to the next slide, because this is I've just come straight to the case stories. So this is a quote that I wanted to start with. Cellular phone for men is an extension of the public world. For women, it is an extension of the private world. And if you look within, how many of us are actually managing home and multitasking while, working or, looking after our families while we're doing that. So this is a field called, next slide please, the fourth slide, MSBC and women. Shilpi, can you proceed further? Yeah. So access to phones and mobile internet is increasing exponentially, and India is no different. And they have the potential to disproportionately affect women, for many of whom mobiles are the first and the foremost ICT device that they are using. And what I found during my PhD is they may not be owning a mobile, but they definitely have access to mobiles. Each and every woman in the rural area, and they know, the smartphone may be a little difficult to use, but the regular featured phones, they're very adept at using that. So next slide, please. So one thing that was majorly noticed is there was a hue and cry over the dowry-related crimes, which has really gone down in India, because earlier the bride was not expected to be back in her house on a regular basis for at least a year, and that 1 year was the most crucial because it led to a lot of dowry harassment from the in-laws. Today that figure has really gone down, because with a mobile phone they are in touch with their families constantly. So that is one positive that the mobile has delivered in India. Next, please. Yeah, so this is very much like the pink phone initiative that was started in Cambodia, where there were pink phones were given by Oxfam to farmers, and they played a major role in rural economy and upliftment of their financial status. So can we go on to the next? Right. So not this, the next one. This is Think Pink. This is the Oxfam initiative, which was an example. Back to school. These are real pictures of girls who have indicated their willingness and their eagerness to study, and they have actually, been in touch with their Anganwadi trainers who are teaching them, and it has led to a lot of social change. These girls have not just educated themselves, they have enrolled in colleges, they have said no to child marriage. So much is happening because, you can say it is the writing on the wall, because where they study, the Anganwadi or the basic teachers' phone numbers are given on the thing, are written on the walls to be in touch with them for anything. And even in this pandemic time, these Anganwadi workers, because they're supposed to give midday meals to students, they have been the field workers, and they have been going door to door and helping out these young girls to maintain their link to the school. And of course, there has been all over the world, there has been an increased rise in domestic violence and domestic abuse and in child marriage. And in very, very extenuating circumstances, these ladies are working with their young students and helping them maintain their school link and continue their education. Shilpi, please, I'm bothering you again. Next slide. You've got me back. I wanted the next slide. So there was also this case study that I had come across, which was about this young girl who found out that her cousin was being married off at the age of 16 to somebody, and she used the phone. She used a featured phone to get access to her teacher, and together they intervened and they stopped this child marriage. Several such cases have been reported, and access to mobile has helped them, gain gain access to not just their teachers, but also helplines, prevalent helplines. Earlier, the death rates of the infant death rate was very, very high. Today, thanks to helplines being associated with reproductive health and other such parameters, people are reaching out to the health workers who are in the field, and either having assisted deliveries or institutionalized deliveries, which earlier was a thing of the past. So getting benefits of and reaping the benefits of government schemes, on ground through these mobiles. There is also this national helpline 1090, and many of the girls that I had interviewed during my stint in the most backward areas of my state actually told me that they had warded off these boys who were trying to impose on them through complaining on these helplines. So a lot of crime against women, crime against young girls has also been, stemmed. Of course, the figures, India is a huge country, so, the figures that keep coming in seem alarming. But what it has done is definitely empower these girls, and they know in every village that I went, even the boys were aware of this helpline 1090, which is a national helpline for assistance when you are being harassed by an eve teaser. And it puts it puts the criminal in a digital cage, so under surveillance for 3 years. So it has really helped these young girls. Similarly, there was a health helpline that I wanted to talk about, which is the mobile kunji. They started this in some states. It finished in 2015, and today is a part of an MIT research paper and has been acknowledged the world over. And this is about a deck of cards, and using a small featured phone, this health worker went into the field, and every deck of card had a code related to, like suppose, did you take your iron tablets? So they could dial that code, and if they would go on to the next card. Otherwise, they could dial this number, and there would be a so-called doctor who would be at the other end, and she would tell them why this was necessary and where it would be available. So a lot of maternal and child mortality rates have been there has been a positive change with this, and more people going in for institutionalized deliveries uh, in India because of these helplines. So exponentially across the country, if you see that access to mobiles has led to not just social and behavioral change in the men, in the women, but also in the men, because they have understood that uh, it has become the one common denominator which gives everybody access to empowerment, access to education, access to so many things, to government, facilities, to government. Today, you can, apply for an LPG cylinder. You can, which is a gas cylinder. So the fuel cooking, which used to really hurt the eyes, and which was an old traditional means of cooking. And also, women had to go far into the, outskirts of the village to be able to collect, and a lot of their time was spent getting water and getting these collecting the twigs and everything, so that they could just for cooking a meal for their families. So what I have noticed is that access to mobiles is not just exponential; it is quite universal, even in the most rural areas of the state, and it has helped, to alleviate the lot of the women and empower them a lot. So it has been a real change maker, and at the end of my thesis, I put in a whole, framework that if these measures were adopted, and if we could have, interventions which were targeted for certain schemes, if they were meant at schoolgirls, then if schoolgirls could be targeted and reached through mobiles, you would have a very positive, and you would, root out the middlemen who create these blockages to access to to these rights, access to these projects, access to government services. So what was a very positive note was seeing how rural India had accepted and taken in the learnings from the mobile, and was heading towards even, financial security. A lot of women today have, thanks to government schemes and other schemes, today have their own bank accounts, and there is money from schemes coming in, and the registration is done through mobiles. So their mobiles, they get their, the information, how much money has come in, withdrawal, and, credit and debit facilities, all of them available. So my conclusion from my thesis was that yes, there is a universal acceptance even in the most remote areas of the state of UP, which is one of the very backward states of whereas development indicators are concerned, and providing access and reaching out to the masses through helplines is the only solution in a country as wide and as vast as India, because uh, because today each and every woman, if she may not have the ownership of a phone, but she does have access to one. So this was the quickest and the most easiest way to approach them and help them progress further. So actually, it is M for empowerment and being the change in society. So I think from my side that's it. I hope I haven't exceeded my time too much. And thank you, Jacqueline, for that beautiful introduction that you gave. And it's great to know that you're also from the University of Westminster. So two people from the University of Westminster on board. And that's my conclusion. And if there are any questions, I would love to answer them. So yeah, is Jacqueline uh, So it's been a wonderful day. It's been a busy day for all of us. And I'm sure, ladies, you've been, as busy. We were just speaking on the panel, and, there was, everybody seemed to be having one program and the other. So it's a great way. But I would love to say that not just one day, but every day is there for women. Women are 50% of the population, and we should assert our rights. And in whatever places that we are, I mean, we just heard Fatima doing so well in Afghanistan and telling us about the doctors there, the health workers there, the educationals there. She's teaching English to students. And to be honest, it's an area that I have always wanted to work in, and given a chance, I would be the first person to leave and go to Afghanistan. I have, this wish to work with people there, especially the girls there. And, furthermore, we will have Seetha joining us from Dubai, and Dr. Maina joining, and also, of course, Jacqueline, who is also chairing, handling a double responsibility of also chairing the show. So, hi, Shilpi.
Okay, I'm really sorry. The presentation had to be stopped. There was an major internet issue on my part. All right, I'm getting back. So,
no, that's okay. I managed to encapsulate the rest of it and give, I think, give a pretty succinct idea of what I had been working on. So, Jacqueline is on to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So over to you, Ms. Francis.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was very insightful, especially when you were talking about the Pink Phone Initiative, and also when Dr. Shirin was talking about having to interrupt or disrupt that 16-year-old who was going to get married off. So we can see here, the awareness and the importance of the mobile phone. So our next guest who we'll be talking to is Seetha, and her topic is finding and owning your own voice. Now, Seetha is a personal development trainer, lifestyle consultant, and motivational speaker with a background in English, psychology, counseling, hypnotherapy, metaphor therapy, teaching children with special needs in the UK. She's also a licensed practitioner of Neuro-linguistic programming, and amongst many other things as well. So if I can hand the floor over to you, Seetha, go ahead with your topic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And thank you very much, GETI, for this opportunity to be a part of your wonderful Women's Day event, and wishing all of you a very happy Women's Day. But when we talk about voice, I think for a lot of us, it's so natural for us to just start talking and communicating. But before we do that, what is the best way that we are able to think about how we wish to find and own our voice? I would say the first starting would be to ask ourselves a couple of questions. For example, what am I passionate about? What are the things that I'm afraid of? Am I worried about what people will think? Am I fearful that I won't communicate my feelings well? Or am I worried whether I need to buck myself up and become more knowledgeable in the field that I'm focusing on? Well, once you've answered these questions, I think another factor that we need to think about is about accepting our authenticity. Each of us are very unique, and each of us would be contributing to this world in our own very special way. And finding the niche that we have, what is it that we are probably passionate about, is the first step in helping us to be original to what we have set out for. So celebrate the fact that you're original. The next thing would be clear about the message, the values that we stand for. How clear are we? Do we have our own convictions about subjects that affect the world, that affect people around us? The third thing would be, don't be afraid to draw a line. When you find that your boundaries that you have set for yourself are being crossed, do not hesitate in speaking out for yourself, because no one else would speak out for yourself unless you will. The fourth one would be to take action. When I say action, it's about that hesitation that we feel. In fact, talking about action, I think of an incident years ago when I had seen a child who was very upset. I was also very small, and I had seen a child who was very upset. And I think looking back, I could have very well mentioned that that little friend of mine was very upset to her parent, whom I later on met. So in other words, right from the time you're little, I think it's very important to speak up and take action, necessary actions which could help others and of course yourself. The fifth one would be, how can we enable ourselves to communicate better with family, colleagues, and friends? I know of someone who mentioned that they have a great difficulty in communicating in a very firm manner with people around them. So in case others around them are not able to understand, it's not exactly their fault, because they are not getting an idea whether a person is unable to do something that they have committed. So it's very, very important to learn how to communicate effectively and at the same time be firm in your communication with others. And another matter that we need to consider when we start finding our voice will be to accept the fact that there could be discomfort. Because whenever we start speaking, we might say something which may not necessarily meet approval from others around us. So are we prepared for the discomfort that we will experience if someone else does not agree with us? Now that's a question we need to ask. Resist the desire to make personal attacks. Now, I've often noticed this, that sometimes in our desire to speak our mind, we are a little hesitant initially about speaking our mind, but once we are comfortable about it, there is a tendency for us to unwittingly make personal attacks, which I don't think can necessarily enable our voice to be heard better. So how we say it is also very important as much as what we say. And like I mentioned about accepting that people will disagree, and don't be afraid of having people desiring to cut off relationships, because that is also something which we do have to accept when we start finding our voice and we start utilizing our voice to make things clearer for those around us. When it comes to women in leadership, I think what I've noticed is whatever we say needs to be of value. How valuable is it? How important is it? How significant is it? The message, the subject that we are trying to communicate. And we need to also be very clear with our convictions. Are we standing up for subjects that truly matter? Or are we merely voicing our opinion for the sake of communication? I think it's a thought that we need to give some mind, some time for. Refusing to be silenced. Now, that is something very, very important, as I'm sure all of you will agree. When it comes to utilizing our voice, is it important that we are heard and, of course, refusing to be silenced? Indeed, I think we just had two very inspiring speakers just before I started speaking. That is Fatima from Afghanistan and, of course, Dr. Shirin Abbas from India. Now, when you consider the speakers who spoke before me, they are very unafraid to speak what's on their mind, and they refuse to be silenced. And they truly talk about what they are passionate and what they believe in. And of course, when you talk about this, we have to be once again willing not to be liked if required. If what we say is important, decide for yourself what is important, the subject we wish to talk about, or the fact that we may be disliked. Speaking the truth. Now, certain times in our life, we might come across situations where we feel very, very uncomfortable about talking what is on our mind because we don't wish to offend anybody. But I think it's always better that you are as transparent as you can be so that you leave no room for people to misinterpret you. As much as possible, I would like people whom I'm speaking to understand and accept my words as a reflection of who I am, rather than thinking that, oh, does she really mean that? Or could she have meant something else? Because that doesn't help me, it doesn't help them either. One of the most important things, I think, as a woman or even as a man, what you can do is not just have courage to stand up for yourself, but help others to find their voice. In other words, it could be mentoring, or it could just be making sure you're there for someone who's going through a rough time. And it's not only about financial assistance, as we all know, that enables people to help others. It could just be sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience, and sharing your life learning. And when it comes to speaking out, do not be afraid when sometimes you find yourself standing alone, because some subjects may just not be accepted by those around you. So be absolutely fearless. And while you're afraid about losing your voice, like I mentioned earlier, do ensure that you are very conscious about telling people who are afraid not to be so. When it comes to women, and of course, in terms of the behavior in workplace, I was just looking at a quick time to see that I'm not overshooting time. When it comes to women and workplace, I think one of the things that we can do, and I would like to reiterate here, it's not just women here, but even for men, is to be generous when it comes to giving credit. I can assure you, by giving credit, it's a very, very generous step in appreciating. At the same time, it's also something that you will learn in terms of acquiring the excellence that you have been inspired to speak about and appreciate. So please be generous when it comes to giving credit to people. Another thing is, of course, allow people to speak up. It doesn't matter if they are saying something you don't necessarily like. It doesn't matter. We all are very different from each other. How well we are able to live in harmony, how well we are able to communicate effectively in harmony and peace is something that determines us as a leader who would like to make a change at the same time by listening and learning from others. Practicing speaking up whenever possible. Learn, acquire, improve, be on a lifelong personal development journey. And you will find there are more and more opportunities for you to speak up, because what you say would be something valuable for others to learn from, to listen, and hopefully even start practicing. Be mindful of your tone or our tone. What we say, like I earlier mentioned, is not just about what we say, it's about how you say it. So if I'm going to say something, for example, if there is someone in front of me and someone asks me, it's a friend of mine, says, how do I look? And I know that's perhaps not the most flattering attire or color for my friend. I would rather say, I think this color would look a lot more lovelier on you. And I think it's not just the tone, like I said, it's the way how we communicate. So the tone is very, very crucial. And at the same time, allow your ideas to be heard by people so that you are able to feel happy about any changes that your ideas have made in the environment and in people's lives.
Okay, thank you, Seetha. Can I ask you to, is that to wind up to come?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. It's a bit difficult for me to keep looking at the time. Sure. So basically what I would like to say is when you wish to really own your voice and find your voice, be authentic, be on a lifelong journey of personal development, help others generously, and you will find that you have a voice that deserves to be heard, and people would want to hear your voice and what you have to tell them. Thank you so much. Over to Jacqueline.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting about finding your voice, which is true because a lot of people do have opinions, but they're afraid to speak out. And those who do, who do have opinions, and others would leave them because they're voicing their opinions as well. So yes, if we can move forward to our next guest, who's Dr. Maina, if he can join us. Okay, hello, Dr. Maina, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Good. So the topic that Dr. Maina will be talking about today is gender responded pedagogy for carer progression. So if I could just quickly give a quick introduction of yourself. So Dr. Maina is Head of Professional Development Center at the Aga Khan Academy in Mombasa. He's a global coordinator in Knowledge Innovative Exchange Project across Kenya, Rwanda, Bangladesh, and Canada. So if I can give you the floor so that you can talk about your topic today.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline, and thank you for the other previous speakers. Happy International Women's Days to all the listeners, girls, women, ladies. Congratulations on these days. And I can say that as a teacher educator, I feel that education enables boys and girls, women and men to participate in social and economic political life in a base for development of a democratic society. So education can be crucial in changing attitude, in accepting gender equality as a fundamental social value. In many countries, especially the marginalized region in Africa, we have a lot of issues like cultural tendencies, early marriages, early pregnancies, child labor, FGM, and other stereotypes of the role of women and girls at home and wherever they are. So I think it is imperative, if you look at the way the society is structured, for us to relook at the education, where children are prepared for life and where they spend most of their time, for them to be formed at those formative years, to have their voice, as the previous speaker had said, to have digital literacy, as the previous speaker had said, in terms of using technology for empowerment and having a role in the society where your voice counts. So I can say gender responsive pedagogy is whereby the teaching and learning process pays attention to the specific needs of boys and girls. So we cannot assume that we are all the same, and therefore we need to take care of the gender inequalities that we have from where we are coming from the society we are coming from where we are engaging. Because we have an issue of a society which is profiled to treat people in a different way based on gender. And this is fueled further by the way the curriculum is developed or deployed by the teachers or the system. So it is very, very important we look at gender equality from the education, all the way from the way the curriculum is designed, to ensure that the curriculum is unbiased and the textbooks are there to facilitate gender responsive instruction. Curriculum and textbook should be free of gender bias and should promote equity in gender relations. So this should start all the way from the teacher training, from what they are doing in the classes, from the inspectorate when they are checking, to ensure that gender equality is addressed. You find that we all have issues: poverty, geographical isolation, minority status, disability, early marriages, pregnancies, gender-based violences, traditional attitude about the status and the role of a woman, among many other obstacles. So when you see a student in front of you you should be sensitive. And I'm not saying you have pittance or tolerance, but you have open-mindedness in terms of how you handle the diversity of the learners in your class. The language you use in the class for inclusivity, the choice of material that you select to use in the class for inclusivity, the time you give for answers, you ensure that you create a balance so that there is equitable access and empowerment of participation in this learning process. Because unless we shape all our learners, boys and girls, from their formative years, then we'll overcome very many challenges as they form. They become empowered, they have a voice, and they have the equitable competency, just like self-efficacy, digital literacy, communication and collaboration. That empowerment will break the glass ceiling and allow them to transcend their careers, make choices irrespective of their gender, but have that innate feeling of what they want to do their society as agents of change, to contribute, to live and work together with other people, irrespective of gender, and in full awareness of diversity and how to bring everybody together. So we need to appreciate that the classroom environment must include valuing equality, the learning ability of both female and male students. It has to be facilitating to both female and male students abilities to learn, progress equally, and develop the potential to the fullest. So if you look at for example, the curriculum reviews which are being done, they are looking closely in terms of gender responsive pedagogy to ensure that the girl has a voice, the boy has a voice. That equity, participation, agency. And the reason why we need all this is because we need to identify what is happening. Why are we systematically marginalizing a certain gender because of the structures, the curriculum, the example? Maina can be in kitchen as Jacqueline is driving the bus. But if you use that example at formative years and you flip it, you try to amplify the diversity and you try to amplify the stereotyping of that as the children grow up. So it is very, very important that our curriculum narrative is formulated. We had a 4 years project, Educating Girls in Science, in a community which is marginalized, where girls are married at very formative years. But then we changed the curriculum in the classroom, whereby we are connecting the science curriculum to the lives of the children. If I'm talking about energy, I'm connecting to the lives of what they use to cook firewood and how they can do that to other things. And what happened is that these girls became change agents. They realized that I can change from firewood to a very good source of energy. And therefore, they went to the community and they start advocating for clean energy. Before, they had no voice. But now when they were empowered, they saw science in class can be science in the community, and it can make our lives better. So in conclusion, I want to say, let us start early. Let us start in the classroom. Let us start in the formative years. Let us empower girls and boys. Let our girls know that they have a voice, they have a role, they are change agents. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Maynard. That was so informative. And I'm here nodding my head in total agreement in terms of what you're saying, especially when you're talking about gender bias and designing the curriculum for younger, boys and girls as well. So thank you very much for that. So I hand you over to Shilpi. Shilpi, are there any questions or anything?
All right. So thank you, each one of you, and thank you, Ms. Francis, for taking out time and taking up the responsibility of being the chairperson for today's panel. Well, in the end, as we come to this very interesting discussions, thanking each one of you for your valuable suggestions and opinions. I believe, as women, we have to realize that, we have to stop categorizing ourselves as special genders. We are as a human being as men. The more we start categorizing ourselves, oh, we are women, we need a special place. We need a special place. The more we are discriminating ourselves, So the way to celebrate Women's Day is to realize that we are as human as the other humans. There is nothing to, special, put us into a special category. Yes, there was a time in history, there was a time centuries back when we were being treated in a different manner, right? But then we have centuries later, now at this in this 21st century and further to go. I don't think we are going back into history anymore and we are repeating those kinds of things. So let's look forward, and instead of treating ourselves as special people, let's get together with men and let every human being be special. You know, so let's work towards a common future for our coming generation, that they not even have to look back and see that what discrimination was actually all about. Thank you so much once again for joining in, and a very happy International Women's Day to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
ladies
so
and
much.
gents. Okay.